So Death Race 2 is the prequel to the 2008 Death Race remake, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson and starring Jason Statham. Jason Statham is replaced by a different actor here, not playing the same guy, obviously, he's playing a totally different guy, being that this takes place quite a few years before the first one, and the main actor in this one is played by Luke Goss. Don't recognize him from much. He is an awesome actor. He is just as badass as Statham was in the first one. But I don't really recall him in anything else, although I'd be interested in seeing him in other films. And Ving Rhames is in here. Sean Ben, or Sean Bean, is in here. I don't know if it's Bean or Ben. It's spelled Bean, but we'll just go with Sean Bean, I guess. Danny Trejo's in here. Danny Trejo's always awesome, no matter where he shows up. It doesn't matter if the film sucks ass or is amazing. He always delivers. He just delivers badassness on anything he touches. And then we have, what is her name? Her name is Tenant Phoenix, who also I don't recognize her, but she plays like the love interest and the hot chick in this one, just like Cass did in the last one. And she does a really good job. We also have another actress here who plays another boss ass bitch, really hot boss ass bitch, but real whack job boss ass bitch. What's her name? Oh, where'd you go? I don't know. Her name's Lauren something, I think. Anyway, like I said, this is a prequel. This is straight to DVD. The rest of the films in the Death Race remake franchise are straight to DVD. But this is really good. I'd say this is right on par with the first film. I had a great time with this one. It's a very... Do I say complex, or do I just say, like... There's a lot going on with the plot. And I had to watch this a few times, actually, because the thing is with Death Race 2, not only is there a lot going with the plot, but it's also, there's a few plot holes in this film. And to the point where I had to, like, rewatch it so many times to really grasp, like, did I miss something? Did I miss something here? Like, this is not making much sense right now. Am I an idiot? Am I just totally lost in what's going on in certain, events that go on throughout the film? Whatever, and it just, it's convoluted kind of in a sense, but like I said, when it comes to the plot, there is a lot more going on than just Buddy goes to jail and he starts racing cars. The film starts off with a prison fight. So this is right, like it explains how Death Race basically came to be. Wayland Corp owns this terminal island, so the terminal island exists, and there's a prison riot there, and crime is again like really sky high. There's a lot of people in prison, and there's prison riots all over the place. So there's a news anchor and a news broadcast that's like shooting and filming this prison riot and broadcasting it live on the news. And this woman named September Jones is filming it and basically, trying, like, she wants to get all the footage she can kind of thing, and she's demanding that her producers put it live on air, but they don't want to because, it's extremely violent. People are literally killing each other, and of course, September Jones is all like, do it or I'll tell your wife everything. So right off the bat, this woman is obviously a very selfish, complete bitch. Anyways, after that, we find out that Wayland Corp owns this, or basically takes the profit for what goes on in this prison, and then we learn that Deathmatch was created. So not Death Race, but Deathmatch, where they actually made a live TV show where people fight to the death and in front of a live audience and, get ratings, and the studio gets paid. And it's run by September Jones, who became a host and became the founder of this deathmatch, fighting game TV show kind of thing. And then we get introduced to Luke Goss. I wanted to say Luke Goss. Luke Goss's character, whose name is Carl Lucas. And Carl Lucas is having a chat with Sean Bean's character, Marcus Kane, and they're at their mansion, and he's a driver. He's a getaway driver, basically, for bank robberies. and he's given a job, and he's given a car, and this car is very colorful, which he actually makes a comment on. It's like, this car stands out like a mile away, I'm gonna be caught in a heartbeat. And Marcus Kane, played by Sean Bean, is like, no, it's like hiding in plain sight. You know, the more people can spot you, the less suspicious you seem, which is kind of true. I guess he has a point in that one. But anyways, he goes to this robbery and shit goes wrong, obviously, and his entire crew are basically a bunch of hotheads. So the police show up, they start a shooting spree. There's a lot of slow motion in this film. The director really definitely likes utilizing slow motion a lot. That's probably what makes this film a lot longer than it should be. A lot of films have that problem that utilize a lot of slow motion. They're usually like 10 to 15 minutes longer than they need to be. But this prison shootout is awesome. Carl Lucas actually accidentally shoots a cop, and then you have this whole violence going on behind him, and he, he's the getaway driver for these guys, and then he's fuming at them because he's like 20 years of robberies and never a single thing went wrong, not a single life was taken. And then there's this car chase, which the car chase is incredible. We're talking like Fast and Furious kind of style, and great utilization of camera work and camera angles. There's a scene where one of the dudes drops like 4 grenades out the door, and the cops like blow sky high. Really, really great car chase till it ends on a bridge, and Carl Lucas basically turns himself in and gets arrested. And then it flashes forward 6 months later of him being taken to prison, and Marcus Kane finds out about this. It's actually funny because he's watching this car chase on the news, and then he takes it out on the TV because it's the TV's fault, obviously. So he grabs the whole fucking thing and just tosses it on the deck, like the outside table. He's just like, fuck this. He just fucking throws the TV. Blame the TV for Carl's arrest. And he basically tells his men to put a hit on Marcus because put a hit on Luke because he's afraid that Luke is going to talk in jail and going to basically turn him in. Even though Luke is ridiculously loyal to Marcus Kane, Marcus Kane is not nearly as loyal to Carl Lucas, sorry. And it's terribly sad because he's basically Carl Lucas is given a chance to rat Marcus Kane out and he's free to go. And he doesn't. He stays massively loyal. But here we have Marcus Kane who admits that he looks at Carl Lucas like a brother, but it's like, no, he has to go. So he tells his men to, go put a hit on him for somebody to take him out in jail kind of thing. So it's definitely a really great opening to a straight-to-DVD death race film. And there's a lot going on. You don't really get racing until like 50 minutes into the film, to 50 to 55 minutes. But you get your death match fights, and there's one glorious one at the beginning, the first one to be had, where you have these 2 people fighting. You have Xander, and then you have this guy named 14K. 14K returns from the first film, and he's actually played by the same guy who was in Mortal Kombat, who played Luke Kane. I think his name is Luke Kane. The actor's name, is it here? I guess not, but yeah, he plays Luke Kane with the long hair that everybody recognizes from Mortal Kombat. He has a shaved head in this one, but he's badass. I forgot to mention him in the last review too. I forgot to mention 14K, and I forgot to mention Lists, which is another guy that returns from the first movie. Lists is kind of like this short autistic guy who is nicknamed Lists because he knows every fact in the book. Like, he'll just drop facts about things that happen in history, and like he'll just repeat, like, they should actually just call him Facts. I think that would be a more fitting nickname. But they call him Lists for that reason, and he kind of stutters sometimes. But he's a very like quirky, friendly guy that you can't help but like, and he's always just dropping random facts, which is really funny. And then 14K in the last film too, he actually dies in that one. So this being a prequel, it shows where he came from. And in the last film, it's funny when he before he dies, he's like, I forgot to mention this, he's like, fuck me. And then they subtitle it in Cantonese or Mandarin or whatever he's speaking, and they subtitle it in that language. So it's hilarious because it's the one of the only English things he says. Other than that, he's speaking Mandarin or Cantonese. But he's back in this one, and he is hilarious. He's a really great character. So him and Xander are fighting, and we're talking flamethrowers in this bitch. We're talking like it's insane. It's just insanity. And there's like axes. It's the same as the death race style, but instead of the cars going on those platforms, you stand on them, and then you get access to like weapons for 10 seconds. You get axes, swords, hammers, whatever the fuck, and they start amping up the weapons with the flamethrowers afterwards. The flamethrower fight is just insanity. So yeah, you without like before the car chases start, you do get a lot of action-packed sequences that are basically just as entertaining and thrilling. And this film doesn't really stop for too many breaks when it comes to like throwing a lot of action towards the screen. So this is when the audience kind of starts to get bored, and especially with like the people who surrender. They call it surrendering, basically. Submit, there you go. The people who submit during the fight, because you're allowed to submit, which there is a plot hole because September Jones announces that if no fighter wins, both fighters are killed, but then allows submissions, which doesn't make sense. And if a fighter can submit and the other one wins, how do both fighters lose? If it's a fight to the death, one of them is going to win. So how are both fighters killed? I didn't really get that part when she mentioned it. Not that it's too relevant, but I definitely did notice it. And ratings start to go down. She's basically like in the pits because the Warren of the place and Ving Rhames' character, who basically not runs, but like she founded Deathmatch, but he kind of like is like the owner of it or something like that. She basically speaks to him, and he's giving her shit because the ratings are low by 20%. And he's like, "You don't fix this, I'll find somebody who can." And she's like, "Are you sure?" And then he's like, he smiles at her, and then he grabs her neck to go give her a kiss. And then he pulls back and he's like, "Yes, I'm sure. Now go make my motherfucking money, okay?" Savage. Savage, 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 savage. That was like beyond savage moments right there. Especially with his deep voice, that Ving Rhames voice. So, so good. So she's, like I said, she's trying to come up with something. She discovers Carl Lucas. He's a master at fighting. He has skills that, again, are not necessarily explained. His driving skills are explained because he's a getaway driver, but his fighting skills are not explained too much. But she discovers this, so she goes seduces him in the shower. There's this really sexy scene where she's like offering him favors and good food in jail and proper treatment and a bigger cell and all that stuff, and he just refuses to fight. And then she goes all sass mode, and he's like, "You don't hear the word no too much, do you?" And she's like, "Only when I say it." And she's like, "If I want you to fight, you're gonna fight." And like, she's just full of herself. There's even a scene where she threatens Ving Rhames for like, "If you don't want a sexual harassment claim shoved right down your throat, you better listen to what the fuck I have to say right now." So, yeah, this chick is spoiled, to say the least. But a boss-ass bitch, like I said. So he refuses to fight, and then she pulls a little trick off her sleeve. The next death match, there's this guy named Big Bill, like a tank, basically. This guy's fucking huge. And then the runner-up to fight him is Lists, who's this short little stuttery guy who can't fight worth a shit. He's not a fighter. he's gonna get killed in there basically. And then Carl Lucas is like, "Hey lady, you made your point, like switch us up, he's gonna die in there." And she's like, "Yeah, obviously, it's called deathmatch." So he goes in to save List's ass because Carl Lucas is a badass, and he starts this riot again with the flamethrowers, and it's basically three of them, and then everybody like cheering on the outside fences, start like banging on the fences. One gets through the fence, or a bunch of them gets through the fence, I should say, and then it turns into a huge ass riot where they have to shut down the broadcast because everybody's just killing everybody, and everybody's lighting everybody on fire and just fucking destroying. And then the women prisoners come in there too, and then the guys start going after them to force themselves on them, and then of course they're badass so they can defend themselves well, a lot of them can anyway. And yeah, it just turns into this shit show. And then the broadcast got shut down. Again, the ratings are lost, and she's basically, September Jones, I mean, is basically has her job like right on the line there. So there's a scene where, because they fix cars and because they're being paid to basically melt down cars because Wayland Corp owns the prison and basically owns the prisoners, so the prisoners work for free and make big corporations money, basically in this universe, just like the last one was, the last death race. She there's a scene where Carl Lucas basically takes a car for a test drive around the place, and she hears it and notices it, and then kind of brainstorms that idea of turning deathmatch into death race, and then talking to Ving Rhames. Ving Rhames kind of suggests that like people aren't watching this show for the game because nobody actually cares about the game or the contest. They care about the repercussions and what comes by winning, like what's valuable. And then he's like, what's more valuable than money? And then he comes up with life. Life is more valuable than money. So let's say somebody wins 5 races, they get their freedom no matter what they're in for. And then they start brainstorming, and then he's like, death race. And then that's when they get the idea. So I like the first death race because you get 20 prisoners, maybe 25, and there's 9 cars. So September Jones is basically like the first to the cars get the cars and start the race, and everybody else is shit out of luck. And you have people like whacking each other in the face with hammers and like fucking just going absolute ape shit to get to a car. One guy jumps into a car and he's like this like Eastern European guy with an accent, and he jumps into the car. He sees a girl beside him because everybody rides with a girl, and he's like, "This just gets better and better. How about some roadhead?" Just fucking pervert. And everybody's like I said, just fighting for their opportunity to get into a car, and then the death race starts, the first one. So the death races themselves are pretty much in the same vein as the last movie. There's some great moments in the death races. There's one moment where this car literally goes into a head-on collision into a wall, and it goes in slow motion where the car's kind of like smashing. And then it stops, and you see the fucking guy inside the vehicle, and he's like still alive. I'm like, bitch, that guy would be so out that front window and on the wall. It's not even funny. Like, he's totally intact. It just makes absolutely no sense. Marcus Kane sees Carl Lucas broadcast, and Carl Lucas at this point is already supposed to be dead. So he basically puts a $1 million hit to whoever kills Carl Lucas. And yeah, so you have like a bunch of people in prison, especially Big Bill, who want to kill Carl Lucas on the road or during the race so that he can get his million. So he even at one point bribes Katrina to with the $1 million as well to kill Carl Lucas because she's driving alongside him. And basically he tells her that if he doesn't kill him, that he'll kill her. And he tells the same thing to the other guys. He's like, you have 48 hours to kill this guy, or I'll come after you and I'll consider you my enemy. So everybody basically is trying to kill Carl Lucas. Now here's another plot hole. It's mentioned that they can only kill Carl Lucas on the track and in front of camera. That doesn't make any sense. Marcus Kane just wants Carl Lucas dead, period. So there's plenty of opportunities to just slit his throat in the prison cell. As soon as he's dead, Marcus Kane is happy. I don't understand why it has to be done on the track, and I don't understand why that's the only place that it can be done. Regardless, like I said, it doesn't make much sense, but it is what it is. So I also don't understand if Marcus Kane and September Jones know each other. It's not made clear, but she is so focused on just getting numbers up, and Marcus Kane is so desperate to have this guy dead, which makes me mention, like I said, why don't they just kill him in the shower or something? It'd be over, and whoever does would have $1 million. So I don't get what the whole it has to be on the track thing has to do with anything. But yeah, it is what it is. Also, Katrina being told that if she doesn't kill him within 48 hours, she's dead, decides not to for no reason, and then she's like, oh, I guess you owe me a favor now. And I mean, she's not worried about dying. Like, Marcus Kane's a psychopath, literally. So it's just shit like that. Like, it's a great movie and it's very entertaining, and it definitely has a lot more going on than the first one, but it definitely is also squished with quite a few plot holes. So race 2 comes along, and a few things happen in the second race. One, 14K, the triad, the Asian guy, Carl Lucas saves his life because Carl Lucas knows that in the triad gang and in the triad world, when you save a life, that triad owes you a favor, basically, and a really big one. And at the same time, if you kill another triad, then basically you just put a bounty on your own head because triads are very life for life in that way. So save a life, earn a life, take a life, to get yours taken, kind of thing. And he saves them. He saves him on the track. So basically, 14K is now in debt for a favor with Carl, and Carl mentions that Marcus Kane never dealt with triads because of this reason. So he just never wanted to get involved with triads whatsoever. So this is how Carl Lucas knew how to do that favor, and then that's when Christina comes and is like, "Oh, well, I guess you owe me a favor now because I didn't take your life," and is not afraid of Marcus Kane whatsoever. But it is what it is. It's also mentioned when 14K and Xander were fighting in the death match, the first death match. 14K spared Xander's life. That doesn't make any sense because then it's mentioned that Xander killed a triad and that 14K would kill Xander any chance he gets because he's supposed to, because he's a triad. So he had the opportunity to kill Xander but let him go. So if Xander also saved 14K's life and that's why 14K spared his, it's not mentioned at all. They don't bring it up at all. And they just say like, "Oh, it's weird that 14K didn't kill Xander because Xander killed a triad last time, so he should be dead." Like, a life for a life. Again, his last fight he killed a triad, so 14K is obligated to kill Xander. Why didn't he? That's strange. And then they never bring it up again. It's really, really fucking weird. So Carl Lucas's car is sabotaged by one of the pit members, and his napalm stops working and stuff like that. He's basically set up. And then Big Bill comes along, after him again because of the bounty, and gets him with a heat-seeking missile, and then his car blows up, and this is where he gets basically fried to a crisp and is pronounced dead. They even announced that they gave him like a death certificate, so Marcus Kane believes that Carl Lucas is officially dead. Big Bill officially gets his million from Marcus Kane, I assume, and Carl Lucas is absolutely fried to a crisp. Survives, and he is basically taken to the operating table, and he's like shaking so much, and his body is like charred. And I'm like, if this guy's conscious right now, that's got to be the worst fucking hell that I could imagine. Like, cause he's shaking and everything, and I don't know if he's like comatose or not, but Jesus, like, if he's conscious, that I can't imagine worse pain. Katrina goes up to 14K and reminds him that 14K owes him a favor, and he's like, "I know what to do." So he's basically being put back together. Katrina is coming up with these ideas on where she's going to go now because she's selfish and she wants to keep the game going and she wants to keep the ratings going up. So she comes up with the Frankenstein idea, and lo and behold, Frankenstein is born from the beginning of the first movie. And this is the first Frankenstein, so his mask is created. He's a perfect candidate for this experimental operation where the doctor artificially puts electrodes in his brain. So literally he was brought back to life, hence the name Frankenstein. And she basically, again, blackmails him with Katrina's life to go into the death race and win 5 races with a totally, like, burnt face, like freaking looks like, I don't know, fucking Deadpool or something. And blackmails him, is like, "You don't race, I'm gonna get like the biggest perverts and most ruthless, heartless killers in this prison to basically have their fun with Katrina. So all she wants is ratings, and she's a fucking cunt. But they put him back together, and then he becomes Frankenstein. What 14K did as a favor to Carl Lucas is send another triad, to go assassinate Marcus Kane. So now Carl Lucas doesn't have to worry about him anymore. They of course think he's dead, and everybody in the prison thinks that Frankenstein is some other guy. They don't know it's Carl Lucas. Even Katrina doesn't know it's Carl Lucas. She figures Carl Lucas is dead too. So this Frankenstein guy, who actually is Carl Lucas, is a secret and a mystery to everybody else. A really weird scene too. Lists goes to kill the guy that messed with Carl Lucas's car and killed him, realistically burning him to death, and he goes to murder him, but it's so unlike Lists, because Lists is not a violent guy in anywhere else. He was in the first movie too, like I said, and he's just this quirky little innocent kind of childlike but not violent guy, and then he goes to the shower and murders the dude. So I'm like, that's very unlike Lists, but good for him for sticking up for Carl Lucas and avenging him in a sense. And then you have Frankenstein ready to race, and right before the race, he swerves around and he rams right into fucking September Jones. And Ving Rhames is like, you see that? That is a stupid bitch. Because he knows what she did for her own selfish reasons for the show by exploiting the hell out of Carl Lucas and kind of stealing his identity and turning him into this Frankenstein character. Whereas basically she stripped him of his dignity and life and worth and value of anything. All he's valued for now is a mask, basically. She created a character out of a dude that once had a soul and stuff like that. So he basically gets his revenge by ramming into her. The Warren, who got fired because of her, is at the bar having some drinks, and he sees this broadcast on TV where she gets run over, or smashed against a wall, I should say. And he's like, yes! He's all happy. He's like, drinks are on me. And then the movie ends that way, basically, where it just zooms into Frankenstein's face, and he's like, I'm Frankenstein, and then credits roll. What they did in the last film, too, in the credits, which I forgot to mention again, and they do it again in this one, is they give a warning saying that all stunts in this movie were performed by professionals. These things shouldn't be recreated in real life. I'm like, kind of no shit. Don't put guns on your car and then start racing and shooting at each other. I think they probably say something along the lines of, don't try this at home in the Fast and Furious series too. But I'm not sure. In this one, they really emphasize it at the end. They're like, don't do this. Don't death race at home. Don't do it. I'm like, I don't think anybody's gonna, well, who knows? I mean, fuck. Takes all kinds, but should be kind of obvious not to death race at home or death match for that matter. But yeah, that's Death Race 2, and I watched the unrated version again. Katrina's sexy as hell. The characters are great. Danny Trejo's awesome. Sean Penn plays an amazing villain. I love Sean Penn in this. He's very unhinged in this. I find with straight-to-DVD films and unrated straight-to-DVD films, a lot of actors, they go above, they unleash themselves. They just play characters that are more taboo than what they would do in something more mainstream. I watched this film recently with Nicolas Cage called Running with the Devil, and it has Lawrence Fishburne in it, and I swear he plays a character that he never plays. It's so weird. He's very rapey. He's very creepy. He's very he's always jerking off while watching weird sex stuff. It's really, really fucking weird. But he performs great, and like I said, it's a straight-to-video film, and it just gives actors the opportunity to kind of act in ways that are more taboo and more risque, I guess. So Sean Penn kind of does one of those in this film, and he plays a badass villain. And Ving Rhames is always awesome. Gotta love that fucking deep ass voice that he's got. Owns the screen every time he's on, and it's a great film. It's as good as Death Race in my opinion, hands down. So Death Race 2, released in 2010. Luke Goss is awesome, and a lot of fun. This is the perfect way you make a direct to video or direct to DVD, direct to Blu-ray movie. It's you do it like this. You give it explosions, you give it action, you give it entertainment value. You don't make these kind of things boring, and it plays as a fucking awesome prequel to Death Race. It really just answers a lot of questions. So outside of the plot holes, which are annoying, it still acts as a great prequel and great like explanation to where the first film came from, kind of thing. So yeah, I think I mentioned everything. Yeah, I did. And I was looking at the plot holes because I wanted to make sure I got to them all. But those were them. Those were all of them. They're annoying, but they don't like take away from the movie or anything too much. But, anyways, that's all I got for this right now. So subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with next one, Death Race 3 Inferno. This was a lot of fun, like I said. Stay tuned if you're interested. Until next review, have a good one. Talk to you later. Take care and cheers.